Welcome back to Emirates 24/7. The United States is on the fast track to becoming a bigger oil producer than Saudi Arabia. Thanks to fracking, oil production hit 7.4 million barrels per day last year, an increase of more than 15% over 2012. That's the largest oil production jump there in 63 years.
Now, interestingly, this oil boom is also leading to investment opportunities for UAE residents. Joining us now in the studio to tell us how you could get rich off fracking is Mason Ellery Husky, a senior commodities trader with Lannister Knight. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, before we get into the interview, could you start by giving us a brief explanation of what exactly shale oil is for people at home who may not be entirely familiar with it?
Definitely. It's fairly basic. Instead of oil that's pooled like here in the Middle East with a vertical drill that goes down, what it is it's oil inside shale rock, and it's in these tight little pockets that need to be forced open like through hydraulic fracturing, and that's how it's extracted.
It's fairly controversial.
Well, yes, we'll get onto that. I wanted to ask, I understand the legal landscape in the United States is one of the reasons that there are unique opportunities there when it comes to shale. Can you explain a little bit about how the laws there differ from everywhere else, really?
Yeah, only in the US and Canada is this actually available, and that's because if you own a piece of land in the United States, you actually own the minerals underneath. So same for oil, same was for gold way back in the 1850s. That legal system still exists to this day. So what people can do is actually, if you own a piece of land where there's oil underneath, you can invite an oil company in to actually extract that for a share of the revenue. Okay. And so everyone wins.
Well, absolutely, especially if you've got the property. Now, you've been doing this for some time now. I'm interested, though, it's mainly small companies you deal with. Why would small companies need help with investment? Would there be a bit of risk involved for people from the UAE who'd be interested in investing?
That's actually a great question. Now, the reason that these opportunities exist in the first place is because of the tax code in the United States. So for a US citizen, when they get involved, it's one of the best tax breaks they can expect to get from any type of investment. Now, as far as small to mid-sized companies, the reason is once a company's grown large enough, it's self-sufficient with its own cash flows, like any other business, to do it itself.
So obviously there's a big tax break if you're based in the US, but if we're based in here in the UAE, we don't usually pay income tax, which is great. No. But why would it be interesting? Would it be more risky because we're dealing with smaller companies?
Well, we also only look for companies that have a proven track record. So we're looking at the mid-sized companies. We're not looking for a company that's only doing its first project. We want to see that they've attracted investment before. We want to see that they've been successful, and we want to see that they've been environmentally conscious in how they've worked before. So,
what are some of the major risks involved in investing in shale?
One of the biggest risks is obviously the companies you get involved with, because you want to find, you want to hit oil, you want to get oil and gas out of the ground, and companies that have a proven track record of using good geology, being able to get that oil extracted, and doing it without facing any trouble environmentally or regulatorily, that's the kind of companies we look for, and that's what mitigates that risk of maybe not finding oil or working with difficult companies with a difficult track record.
But of course, with something like shale, there is a bit of risk involved, particularly over in the US. The legal framework is changing. There's a lot of interest, a lot of controversy, as I mentioned before, about how environmentally friendly fracking in particular is. So how does that play into things?
Well, the thing about the US is these sorts of regulations, there's federal regulations and then there's state level regulations. So states like Colorado and North Dakota that have embraced the shale oil boom and have embraced fracking, they still have strong regulation, but they're seeing a lot more investment there. And they're a lot more sparsely populated states, especially like North Dakota. Now, states like California, where there's a lot less water because hydraulic fracturing does use a lot of water, they're being a bit more cautious because it's a denser state, denser population. They need a lot more water for those cities.
Is it a concern that we might see federal regulations change, though, and therefore apply across the board?
Well, with the studies done by the Environmental Protection Agency, they've come out very favorable in fracking, for fracking, okay? And that's good because if the federal government's putting its seal of approval on it, we don't expect that regulation to change.
All right, so I guess bottom line for investors, obviously they're looking at the returns, what they can get out of it. How do the returns compare to, I guess, other investments of a similar nature?
It's actually excellent because people are investing directly into these projects. So it's different from, say, buying a share of a major oil company where you're just based on the performance of the company overall. With this, we're talking upwards of 20 to 25%, even more depending on the project.
And what, in terms of sort of investing, is there a minimum? Are we talking 500 dirhams, 10,000 dirhams? What's a typical sort of figure for most of us?
Well, In the US before, this was $200,000 minimum. Here, we've been able to break that down to $21,000, so right around 75,000 dirhams.
That's still a lot of money though for most of us, I imagine.
Well, it's the type of investor we're looking for is people who maybe do larger scale real estate investments or maybe have done natural resource investments before.
Okay, so it's really sort of, I guess, sort of not the everyday people, it's sort of people on a little bit of high income. Is people been very receptive to that?
People have been receptive. As time has gone on and there's more and more news about this that's going out there, people are interested in how they can get involved.
And
in terms of, I guess, is it what you expected? Has it been a little bit slow? Has it been a bit of a challenge? I guess with things changing in the United States, with some companies maybe going under, and has that changed the landscape?
No, we've actually seen better than expected, to be honest, because as even companies, state-owned companies here get involved in the shale gas boom in the U.S., that kind of leads people to wonder how they can get involved. And with this only being available in the U.S. and Canada, we're the only firm working with this here. It flows our way. And
that works well for you. Absolutely.
It does work very well for us.
Well, Mason, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, coming up, taxi drivers get new rules overseeing their hours.